Subscribe and leave a comment saying I subscribed, and I will personally reply to your comment. It was April 2004. A warm day, the kind where the sunlight hits the desks just right, trickling through the smudged windows and making you feel drowsy, like maybe you didn't actually need to pay attention in class. It was first period English, and I was counting down the minutes to double art, imagining the mess of paint and brushes waiting in that room, the glorious, brainless end to the day. That was when it happened. Bang! It was an explosion. Not the firecracker pop you'd expect, but something deeper, louder, like it wanted to chew up the air in the room and spit it out. It wasn't in the classroom, but it might as well have been. The sound came from somewhere off the bottom of the old staircase nearby, the one that always groaned underfoot and made you think it might collapse someday. Amplified through those ancient halls, the bang felt like it reached inside my chest and rattled something loose. Everyone froze. Mrs. Kenner's chalk broke against the chalkboard. We stared at her, waiting for the cue to panic, but she just blinked, pale as paper. Then she told us to stay in our seats. It didn't feel like a request. Her flat squeaked as she hurried out of the room, heading to check the classroom next door. We sat in silence, the occasional whisper breaking through. The intercom buzzed, and Mr. Kelly's voice came through, grave and unsteady. All students are to remain in their classrooms until further notice. Teachers, please ensure no one leaves. That's when it got weird. For the next 90 minutes, we were stuck in the classroom. Nobody was saying what the hell had happened. Mrs. Kenner returned eventually, tight-lipped, and told us to take out our homework. Homework. Like we could concentrate after that noise. The room was humming with speculation. Some said it was a gunshot. Others said maybe something collapsed, or maybe it was a boiler. When the bell rang at the end of the day, we weren't dismissed the usual way. Instead, a teacher escorted us in small groups along a bizarre, looping detour that avoided the staircase entirely. A 2-minute journey stretched into something closer to 10. I remember the air felt thick, like walking through the weight of everyone's unease. The first sign of something serious came when we stepped outside. 5 police cars parked in front of the school, their blue lights flashing. 4 officers stood by the student entrance, each holding MP5 submachine guns, like this was some kind of action movie. The second sign was the shattered windows on the front-facing classrooms, jagged edges catching the fading sunlight. 4 panes were completely gone, glass scattered on the lawn below. The bus ride home was alive with theories. Some said it was a bomb, others claimed it had to be a prank gone wrong. Then I heard from Mark, who swore his older brother had been near the explosion when it happened. He told us a teacher had been crying in the hallway after seeing the damage. The next day, the school pretended nothing had happened. The windows were repaired like magic, but something wasn't right. An entire section near the stairs was blocked off with yellow caution tape. The lockers once lined up there were gone, replaced with scorched walls. Double doors near the bottom of the steps were splintered, the wood jagged like teeth. Rumors were finally confirmed the next week. Seniors, apparently. Someone had smuggled in a massive firework, rigged it with a cigarette fuse to delay the explosion. The timing had been impeccable, or lucky. Nobody was near the blast when it went off. Just a prank, they said. But here's the thing. Every now and then when I walk through that part of the school, I swear it still smells faintly of smoke, like the walls remember. And the sound of that bang? It hasn't faded from my memory. It started with an announcement coming from the intercom during first period. I was doodling absent-mindedly in the margins of my history notebook when the principal's voice crackled through the speakers. She was calm.
This is a lockdown. Teachers, secure your rooms. Students, remain silent and out of sight.
The usual drill would have included, "This is only a drill." Not this time. I dropped my pencil, heart pounding. Miss Crawford, our teacher, went pale. She moved quickly to lock the door and shut the blinds. "Phone's off," she whispered. "Into the corner. Now." We huddled together like scared animals in a den. I squeezed between my friends, Jenna and Marcus, who clutched his knees to his chest. I could hear his shaky breaths mirroring my own. Outside, silence settled over the school. It was almost suffocating. Then, the faintest sound, the shuffle of footsteps. Someone was in the hallway. The classroom door rattled. My stomach lurched as if gravity had momentarily failed. The doorknob twisted, once, twice, then stopped. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I felt Jenna's nails dig into my arm, her whisper a hiss in my ear. What if it's real this time? It was a question no one dared to ask out loud. The intercom crackled again.
All clear.
The words landed like a stone. Relief should have come next, but it didn't. Ms. Crawford hesitated, her hand on the door. "Stay here," she said, her voice taut. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. When we finally emerged, the hallway was eerily empty, except for a few administrators and police officers. There were no signs of gunfire, no broken glass, just hushed whispers and the overwhelming sense that we'd all been played. By lunchtime, the truth was everywhere. Swatting. A fake call, designed to send police swarming into the school, guns drawn and leave us all trembling. I should have been relieved to know it wasn't real. Instead, I felt something darker. Anger, sure, but also a gnawing unease. A voice at the back of my mind whispered, "Next time, it could be real." The rest of the day dragged on in a haze. Some kids laughed nervously about the chaos, trying to shake it off. But for me, every passing moment felt like waiting for a shoe that might never drop, or might crash down with devastating finality. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every noise felt magnified. The creak of the house settling, the distant hum of traffic. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. A notification, a news update. More schools hit by fake threats. I didn't sleep. The next day at school, everything felt off. The whispers in the hallways, the tired faces of teachers who tried to reassure us but looked just as shaken as we were. Jenna said she'd barely eaten. Marcus skipped his morning classes entirely. When the final bell rang, I lingered by the doors, watching the crowds of students filter out. Something kept me there, rooted in place, as if stepping outside might trigger some invisible trap. I was about to leave when I saw a scrap of paper fluttering on the ground. Picking it up, I froze. Scrawled in jagged handwriting were two words: "Next time." It was an ordinary Monday in 2008, a quiet Midwestern high school morning. My school was small, nestled in a town that prided itself on its safe suburban charm. Life moved predictably there, which made what happened all the more shocking. I had started my day like usual, grabbing a soda from the cafeteria vending machine. The bell had already rung, but I didn't care much. AP history could wait a few minutes. The cafeteria was quieter than usual. The hum of conversation muted, but I didn't think much of it. I'd later learn that the kid responsible for the chaos had been sitting at a table I walked right by. I didn't notice him. On my way to class, the air changed. I heard it. A pop, sharp and unexpected, followed by another. It echoed down the hall, cutting through the dull morning haze. My first thought was firecrackers. Someone being stupid, maybe. But then came the screams. I froze, my body unsure whether to run toward the sound or away from it. Something primal kicked in, and I turned back toward the cafeteria. By the time I reached the T intersection just outside, I saw them. Students bolting in every direction, faces pale and twisted with terror. A boy I recognized sprinted past the end of the hall, his backpack bouncing with every step. He was followed by the shooter. I'll never forget the sound, the pop of the gun, the way the boy stumbled forward like a marionette with its strings cut. Then he got up. God, he got up and kept running. Another shot rang out. My legs moved before my brain caught up, carrying me in the opposite direction, back toward my classroom. When I burst into the room, my teacher, Mr. Davis, immediately stepped in front of the door. He was an ex-Marine, not combat, but still intimidating as hell at 6 feet 8 inches. His calm was unnerving. Without a word, he opened a wall locker, pulled out a baseball bat, and ordered us to huddle in the corner. I told him what I'd seen, stumbling over my words as adrenaline coursed through me. He didn't flinch, just tightened his grip on the bat and nodded. The door stayed locked, and he stood guard like a sentinel. What happened next wasn't something I saw firsthand, but I pieced it together later. The boy who'd been shot, let's call him W, kept running until he reached Mr. Smith's classroom. Mr. Smith was a quiet, sharp teacher, the kind who always seemed to be 10 steps ahead. He unlocked his door, yanked W inside, and threw on a bulletproof vest he'd kept tucked away. Why he had it, I'll never know, but I'll always be grateful. Then there was Coach H. He was a hulking presence, our study hall monitor and football coach. When the gunman moved toward the cafeteria, H didn't hesitate. He followed, his booming voice shouting warnings and orders. The gunman fired at him. Someone said they saw H dive behind a vending machine. When we came back to school later, that vending machine was gone. Eventually, the shooter ran out of bullets. Coach H chased him from the building and returned to sit with the boys who hadn't made it. 6 students died that day. One of them was a kid I'd spoken to just the week before. W survived, but he'll never walk again. The surrealness of it all didn't hit me until hours later, when I got home. The adrenaline wore off, and the weight of what I'd witnessed crashed down. I threw up in the sink and cried until my chest ached. The school reopened by Friday. I didn't understand it then, and I still don't. It felt like being thrown into a nightmare. Every corner, every hallway, every desk held echoes of that day. We didn't learn anything for weeks. How could we? Some of us coped in destructive ways. Weed, drugs, sleepless nights. I got hooked on sleep aids and painkillers for a while, but I managed to quit before college. Others weren't so lucky. The memories don't fade, not completely. Every anniversary brings it back. I've learned to live with it, barely. I can sleep now, most nights. But I still avoid sitting with my back to a door and loud bangs make my stomach drop. Even though some wounds never heal, you can learn to carry them. Subscribe and leave a comment saying I subscribed, and I will personally reply to your comment.
If you would like to hear more stories and support this channel, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.